Thank you so much. I'll be using a presentation, so I'll just share my screen. Hope that works fine. Can you see that?
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much. What a great privilege it is to be here. And, I'm looking around at the room, and we have people from uh, grassroots innovation, people who've worked on public-private partnerships in law and justice delivery. We have people from the legal industry. We have experienced lawyers, and it's just good to see the full gamut of leadership across the law and justice innovation space. So I'm really looking forward to this. Firstly, um, Honorable Secretary Sir, Honorable Joint Secretaries, dignitaries from Invest India, um, thank you so much for hosting this conversation. I believe it's an extremely important conversation. Uh, you know, when we look at access to justice, I think Mr. Sengupta laid this out right in the beginning. It is such a fundamental um, state of being that it impacts every single other system. We know, as a matter of fact, that lack of access to justice dramatically affects interest rates, it affects investment capital, and of course, the personal experiences of businesses and people. So it is not something on the side. I remember recently seeing the SDG goals, and someone who has worked with these SDG goals for a long time, she took the SDG goal boxes and she put justice right on top. She said, because if you look at everything else, where are we without the access to justice? And I think that we must recognize that the mandate in front of us is not just the fulfillment of one expectation of society, but possibly a fundamental expectation without which we really cannot move forward on education, healthcare, business without real access to justice. Um, we have a particular challenge in front of us. The challenge is that we're looking at access to justice for 1.3 billion people. I think sometimes, uh, is stating those numbers, even though they are intimidating, is absolutely critical. 1.3 billion people, 122 major languages, the a country that has tremendous inequality. Bottom 50% have 1% income of the top 10%. We have a current state of pendency, which is over 3 years. 9 out of 10 people, even with legal issues, don't go to courts. And 9 out of 10 Indians need legal aid. Only 1 in 10 access it. So these are not incremental challenges. These are exponential, massive challenges. And when you have a challenge of this nature, then the approach cannot be incremental. The approach has to be exponential as well. So what is this exponential approach? How will we get to close this yawning gap? Is really the subject on which I am sharing a few ideas. But frankly, these ideas are for us to really be able to possibly better appreciate the stories we're going to hear from all the different dimensions of innovation in law and justice, which are going to follow in the next several hours. I'm hoping that I can aid in our appreciation of why we need that, all of these ideas and more. Um, you know, there is a tendency when we are looking at a major problem to focus on what's the solution, what is it that we need to build, and it's a natural tendency because that's how we've always been trained, to think in terms of we have a problem, what's the solution, and it is not the it is there's nothing wrong with this inquiry, but I think that what is really important for us when we're looking at a problem of this scale is that instead of looking for one great solution, however much it may be tempting with technology and with telecommunication, however tempting it may be, that we focus ourselves on helping a million solutions thrive as opposed to zeroing in or searching for the elusive silver bullet. Because in a country with this diversity, with this level of variance and inequities, and at the same time possibilities, Every corner of the country, every community has a possibility. They have traditional solutions, they have mechanisms, they have historical ways of doing things. They may see a solution where we don't. It becomes absolutely critical that we reframe, and I absolutely love the use of the word paradigm shift. We truly really do need a paradigm shift. The paradigm that we historically have come from in our country has been a paradigm where there's a big gap and we need to supply something. And that is can be misleading, because when we assume that there's a gap and need to supply something, we fail to see the infinite possibilities of what's already out there, and possibly fail to empower those innovators from their full potential. So I would really say, I think when we look at a blueprint for the future, how do we help a million solutions thrive is really a critical foundational question we should hold and move forward. I refer to something I really appreciated, when the conversation on digital courts was happening, it was going in parallel with a lot of conversations on what does government look like today. And there was this conversation that, the courts 1.0 and even government 1.0 was about automation. And phase two is about building systems, which is let's create something that delivers better. And that still continues. But can we move to government 3.0, which is building ecosystems? Because building systems, as vital as it is and must continue, must not it must not be the only thing we do. Much more powerful is building ecosystems which allow other systems that are already operating at scale to operate at even greater scale. So what does that look like? To steal some things from the conversations that were happening on digital courts, as well as I think some Métis inspired conversations. What are those infrastructures? What are those specifications? How do different solutions talk to each other? How do you allow different elements of market society to collaborate? How do we learn collectively? I think these are questions that for the scale of challenge that we see in front of us will enable us to get to a million solutions. And for that, we would need an ecosystem. I think Mr. Sengupta mentioned that language of an ecosystem building project. And I think that that's really what is needed in the case of justice innovation as well, if we are to solve this 1.3 billion challenge. So what does this new paradigm look like? I'm stealing words here because they've already been used. Secretary Sir also used that term, which is integral to Disha. Something that's multi-stakeholder, where you recognize that government, civil society, business, and academia all have a hand in this, which is collaborative, so that we may not all do the same thing. We should not all do the same thing, but we should be aligned in terms of our intent and vision. We should share, and often we should co-create where there's synergy. Enabling, especially institutional actors, government, and to some extent business, have to look at how do you enable innovation through digital public goods, through shared resources, potentially even through budgetary innovation. How do you enable other actors? And ultimately empowering. Our citizens are our biggest resource. Time and again, we've seen how remarkable they are. We must not designate them to giving feedback or merely participation. They have the innovation, they have the leadership, and these justice innovators too are citizens in this room. They can be 100,000 more who ultimately will get us to that goal. So if we are to get to, in 2025, this vision, and we are resolving 1 million disputes per day, 1 million disputes mediated every day, 1 million grievances addressed every day, 1 million lawyers providing pro bono, 99% of our property rights secure, 100 million migrants healthy and secure, 10 million legal queries answered every day. If we are to get to this situation where when you know that justice is humming, thriving, buzzing with health, we are going to get there when we're building off that foundation of that new paradigm, and where we are looking at the shared infrastructure, the content, the data, the technology, the community. That is what will enable all of us to thrive. So I do believe an integral part of the blueprint for the future is this new paradigm, but also this orientation towards enablement and what is the infrastructure and data that will accomplish that. That I believe is where we must go. not because it is my viewpoint, but because from whatever time I have spent and looked around, and this room has so many of these fantastic examples, we have incredible innovations that are already one third the way there. And if they are to get all the way there, then we will all need to get behind them and support them. So I'm looking forward to this conversation and probably come back with some synthesis towards the end. But thank you so much for being able to offer these views. Thank you.